Okay, we're recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Do Epic Shit Today podcast. I'm Hannah. I'm here with Kasia. Hello, hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being on. I was already talking to Kasia before this, but I was a little bit fangirling just because you, my darling, are an Olympian, a two-time Olympian and
Yeah,
medal holder.
yeah, I know it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. I still don't think that title's really sunk in yet.
No?
No, I don't think so, but
Do
it's
you
coming.
have do you have your medals like hanging? Like is it like in the bathroom? Like does it like where it can stick?
No, I keep them in my sock drawer.
Oh, jeez.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I know. Most people are like, "What are you doing?" I think it's like easier to just grab them and share with people that way. Everybody's like, "Oh, you should put them in a cool shadow box or something." And I'm like, "Oh, I like sharing
Wearing
them."
them.
So if somebody's like, "Oh, I haven't seen your medal," or "Can you bring your medal for this or that?" It's like easily accessible. So
That's
it's
true.
where I keep them.
In the sock drawer. You know,
Yeah,
there's something very homey about that as well.
yeah. It's
Like,
where all the important things
ex-
stay, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you, and talk me through this, because my husband, which I talked about before, is very well versed in rowing, but I am to the extent of some where I did do some research on rowing because you were coming on.
Yeah.
But talking about the specific event that you've medaled in.
Yeah. So, you know what's funny is before I started rowing, I didn't know anything about rowing. I grew up an alpine skier and I was more of a winter athlete, and then I found rowing a little bit later as an athlete, and yeah, I knew nothing, but I was strong and I had strong quads. That's kind of my claim to fame. And
Okay.
um, in rowing, the seat actually moves. So in the boat, the seat slides up and down, which most people don't know. So it's exactly like a rowing machine that you would find in the gym. And most of your power actually comes from your legs, like your lower body. And I would say probably 60% of your power comes from there. So luckily I had really strong legs and was really unfit when I started rowing, but caught on really quickly. And then yeah, I knew that my power would be um, really valued in a bigger boat. So there's lots of different boat classes, but I knew I would be more of like a four or an eight rower. And the eight in Canada has a bit of a legacy and history, and that's the boat I wanted to go for. So that's what I went for, and yeah, I made it in 2019 for the first time, and have sat in there since.
You made it in 2019, then you were at Tokyo for 2021.
Yeah, well, I came onto the team in January of 2018, and then it was about a year before I really like solidified my spot in the eight. There was a lot of vets on the team and like a really, really deep field at that time on the national team, and I just kept kind of putting targets on my teammates' backs and just being like, yeah, I want to be as good as them or better. And then it became, I want to be the best in the world. So I started training like I want to be the best in the world and not just the best on my team. And I knew if I could do that, then I would get a spot in the boat. And rowing's like a really weird sport where you have teammates, but you're also kind of competing against them every day to try and
Uh-huh.
solidify a spot within a group. Um, so until the selection is over for the event you're racing, you don't actually have a seat in the boat. So for the
Mm.
Olympics, that official selection usually is done by June. So it's really
Okay.
close to the Olympics. Yeah.
Damn, June. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Really close.
Okay. And I noticed the accent. I know where you're from. But for those that are listening, because this will be on YouTube if you want to watch us have this conversation.
Cool. Yeah.
But where are you from,
So
Kasia?
I'm from Canada. I was born in Montreal in Quebec, so I'm actually completely bilingual. But I grew up in Calgary in Alberta and
Okay.
started rowing here. And so, yeah, I have family all over the country, and we trained on the west coast of Canada, so I've been a bit all over the place. And yeah,
Dude, that's sick. Because also, for those who don't know your full name, will you please, because I'm not, I'll let you do the honors.
yeah. So it's Kasia Gruchalla-Wesierski. It's a hyphenated last name. Most people just think, what were my parents thinking giving me a hyphenated last name? But that's actually just my dad's last name is hyphenated. So I
Really?
inherited his full last name, and then my mom, who's Italian, gave me a Polish first name. And yeah, there's been a bit of issues with pronunciation over the years, but That's kind of become part of my identity, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fun having a name that's like quite whack and quite different from everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say whack. I think it's just like it makes you you. Like you're never
Yeah.
gonna. People have a hard time repeating it, but they're never gonna not remember your name.
Yeah.
Like oh,
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, this is like totally off topic, but I got pulled over for a speeding ticket one time, and the police officer recognized my name because I had lost my ID like 5 years prior. And he was like, "Yeah, I remember you because I had to put your name into the system and it was a pain in the butt." And I was like, "That's fair." So it's memorable, that's for sure.
that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I think it's unique as hell. It's definitely in the best way a beautiful tongue twister. But
Thank you.
of course, that's a really cool like cultural. You know,
Yeah.
we don't have that in the States. It's like you're American, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much for the most part. It's just like
Yeah.
that's
No,
it.
that's a cool thing about Canada. Like my mom has an Italian background, so I actually have dual citizenship in Italy, and my dad comes from a Polish background. They both came after the Second World War, so you have a lot of people with different names, different cultures that have come to Canada. So it's kind of this mosaic of people, which is really neat.
Yeah, that's that's so amazing. So, did you know from when you were younger? Like, is your dad or your mom interested? Were they into rowing? Like, how do you? Because I feel like rowing is
Yeah.
not like a I'm gonna row, or
Yeah.
were like your quads just so amazing. You're
Yeah.
like she's got to get in a boat.
No, not at all. Rowing's definitely popular in some areas of the country, but
Mm.
my parents were athletes all their lives. My dad played football, he swam, and my mom, she played volleyball and cycled a lot. And then they both still cycle to this day a lot. And, I just grew up in sport and I did everything growing up. Swimming, soccer was a big one for me, alpine skiing, you name it, I probably tried it. And then I thought alpine skiing was going to be the way that I would become an Olympian. That was always my dream ever since I could remember.
Mm.
And that ended because of an injury. And then, I wasn't an athlete in university. And then my friend who I actually grew up alpine skiing with suggested I try rowing. And that's when I was like, okay. I was kind of thinking like, maybe I should do bobsleigh or something where you could pick it up later
Uh
in
huh.
your early to mid 20s. And she said, well, like you should check out the Calgary Rowing Club. And I went down, and bobsleigh tryouts weren't for another like 6 or 8 months. And so I tried it. I was hooked within the first week, and I was improving so fast that I was like, okay, this could be
Damn.
it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of all fell together. I think like I never really lost that fire in me to be an athlete, and I just didn't really know what to do with it. And
Mm-hmm.
had lots of fun in university, probably partied way too much, but like I was surrounded by um, like college athletes and volleyball players. My roommate was a volleyball player, and I was like, man, I really really miss sport. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got a second chance at it, and then I never took it for granted. Never looked back.
Damn. So you kind of always had that with alpine skiing. And pardon my naiveness, California child.
Yeah,
Is alpine skiing just like skiing dedicated to like the mountain ranges, or what
yeah.
makes skiing versus alpine skiing?
So alpine skiing is just like what Lindsey Vonn does. So
Oh,
like with the
okay.
gates and everything versus like Nordic or cross country.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just going down the hill really, really freaking fast.
Damn.
And I loved it. I wasn't the most talented, but I probably worked the hardest, and I was really fit and strong compared to my teammates. I mean, I was pretty young. I was retired when I was 17. But that's when stuff really starts getting serious. So I was
Yeah.
racing in Idaho. Actually, I broke my leg, and that was kind of like my make it or break it year, and literally broke it. And that was my end of my skiing career. And then I transitioned into coaching, which I think ended up making me a way better athlete down the road. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was just like a huge part of my journey, and I don't think I would have made it through my rowing career had I not had that experience, and especially not those experiences with injury that ended up
Yeah.
being so relevant to my rowing career. But yeah, so I kind of just fell into rowing, and I kind of just fell in love with it right away.
Yeah. Damn, you talk about like a massive hurdle. Like you have this idea and concept of being like an alpine skier, Olympian, break your leg, transition to coach, but then that fire to never be an Olympian ever goes out. And so then
Yeah,
here you're handed an opportunity with rowing, and it's just like, this is
e-
it. This is the ticket.
exactly. I think people thought I was nuts. Like, I mean, I started rowing when I was 23. So in rowing, you have the opportunity to row in this category called under 23. And that's like a big stepping stone to being a senior athlete and going to the Olympics. And I started after that. And you know what? My teammate, Jess Sevick, who was in the boat with me in Paris, she started when she was 25. So it's one
Oh,
of those cool sports that you can start a little bit later in life, um, and still be successful at. But yeah, like one weekend, I was like, yeah, I'm sticking to it, and I'm gonna do this. And I think people are like, yeah, sure you
you're
are.
doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's
But
amazing. So
yeah,
from that transition point, do you mind chatting with me about like the life? I don't know. I know this is probably blasted, like the life of the Olympian. I know
yeah.
you have to give up, and I don't know this, but you read and you study and you research like I did. But what are you giving up when you sign
Mhm.
on for this?
Yeah, it's not a glamorous lifestyle, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
especially as a rower in Canada. Um, I called it a lot of sacrifices for a long time. My coach, Tom, who coached us in Paris, liked to call it investments.
Mm.
But it's you put your life on hold basically, and you train day in day out. You're tired all the time. You basically are like a baby. You eat, sleep, and
You poop.
yeah, you poop, you train. Like seriously,
Yeah.
and you have the immune system of a toddler as well. So you kind of are in this like frozen time, like never land in a sense.
Uh-huh.
While a lot of my friends, because now I'm 33, a lot of my friends are getting married, starting families, starting careers, buying houses, and you don't make much money in rowing at all. In fact, most of the time you're barely scraping by. But it's 100% worth it. You get to do something that not many people do. It's really freaking hard most of the time. It's not fun 80% of the time, but the times that are fun, and I don't mean just like competing and winning, but also just like being out on a beautiful day in a boat and having a really hard workout and it going really well makes everything worth it. And
Mm-hmm.
you get those little like glimmers of like um, satisfaction or just like feedback from
Mm-hmm.
rowing that you're on the right track. And because we're crazy athletes, we hold on to those so much. Because if you didn't, you probably wouldn't be an athlete. It's really demanding, but yeah, it's tough. And then in Canada, we're centralized, so we're on Vancouver Island, on the west
Oh.
coast, and I did 6.5 years in long distance with my husband, now husband,
Woohoo!
and yeah, that was really tough. You don't see your family very often, but you kind of learn to create a family with the people you have around you.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind me asking, what's the driving force? Is it just knowing that in 2021 I want that medal on my neck, and in 2024 I want that medal on my, like, is that the driving force, or is there more to it than that? Because I mean, you're giving up so much for a chance at a
Yeah,
potential medal.
I think that's the thing is you really can't control the outcome.
Right.
Uh, I'm not gonna lie, yeah, I really wanted those medals really bad,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't just do it for the medals, or else you're not gonna get satisfaction out of it.
Right.
Um, But yeah, it was definitely a driving factor for me. When I joined the team in 2018, the women's eight in Rio, so the Olympics before, finished fifth, and they were expected to medal, and it was extremely disappointing for them. So
Oh.
they came back and they were hungry, and I loved that. And
Yeah.
I knew that, this boat had the potential to win, especially in the year leading up to the postponed Olympics. That year was a bit of a silver lining. Well, it was a silver lining for our team and a bit of a blessing in the sense that we got an extra year with a new coach that was amazing, and we got to fine tune a lot, and we were extremely strong, extremely fit, but just needed to learn how to row together a bit more. And yeah, I knew we were fast, and I was going to fight like hell to be in that boat, and I knew we had a shot at medaling. I knew we had a shot at winning, but again, you need to have the perfect race,
Yeah.
and we did. And then yeah, it's kind of crazy. Your wildest dream comes true, and it's just kind of nuts. But In Tokyo, there was no fans, there was no family, no friends.
Right.
So that definitely motivated me to come back from Paris. I never thought that I would continue after Tokyo, and then having like a shorter quad with 3 years, and I stayed at home for the first almost year of that, training by myself here in Calgary and training with the Calgary Rowing Club as well. Um, I was like, I think I can go another couple of years, and that was a
Yeah.
big ask from my husband as well, because we wanted to start a life together, and I was asking for 2 more years to put that on hold.
Yeah.
But it was 100% worth it. And seeing like my friends and family at the Olympics and seeing their experience and seeing it through their eyes of being at their very first Olympics, and then getting to medal and hug them after that. Yeah, it was so cool. But
Yeah.
had we not medaled, I still would have said it was worth it, because you gotta have no regrets.
Right.
I knew that. I mean, it's what motivates us. And yeah, I would have been bummed out had we not medaled. We knew we were good enough for that. But yeah, you just got to have no regrets. And I think I would have been proud to know that I fought like hell to try and get a shot
Yeah.
at the podium, and leaving no stone unturned.
Mm-hmm. And to clarify too, because again, research, Canada took gold for the first time since 1992 in Tokyo. So you didn't just
Yeah,
medal, you fucking
yeah,
crushed.
yeah. It was cool. It was really cool. It was a very surreal experience. Like, I remember, I've said this multiple times in interviews, but I remember like visualizing the moment so much. Like, I
Mm,
visualized winning gold so many times that by the time we had crossed the finish line, I'd visualized like what I was going to smell, what I was going to see, what I was going to taste. Like, that like taste of blood in your mouth, like after a really hard workout, it tastes like
yep.
metal.
Yep.
I visualized all those things, and when it was happening, I was like, I've been here before. This can't
Mm-hmm.
be real, because every time it's been in my head. So I had to like look on the jumbotron to in fact confirm we had won, even though like we'd won. It was
You'd
very
won.
obvious, but I just couldn't believe it, and it was just like so intensely awesome.
Mm-hmm. Does because I've seen a lot of successful athletes use a visualization tool. Like, is that something that's kind of recommended to you from your coaches, or it's just as athletes you guys tend to just pick up based on what you've heard from other athletes?
Um, I growing up in ski racing, like I had to visualize. So
Oh,
in
that's
ski
fair.
racing, you had to um like do course inspection. So before you race, you don't actually get to ski the course, but you get to like
Mm-hmm.
kind of slide down it, take a look so you know what's coming. We like you have to visualize after that to get it right.
Yeah.
And I think it would just like naturally blend it into my rowing career. So I think visualized a little bit more than my teammates, and then it did become practice of ours, and our coaches would work with us, and our sports psych would work with us, and I found it extremely helpful because it's really stressful, and there was a lot of pressure on us to medal again in Paris. We were the only rowing medal for Canada that we brought back, so kind of for the sake of our program, we had to medal,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew that, we were told that, and yeah, it helps you when you're at the start line, kind of shitting your pants. I mean, it's normal, right? Like
Yeah.
the best in the world get nervous. It's okay. It's part of the process. It's just how you're going to deal with it and how you're going to move into that race from that point.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that was widely shown at the Olympics is athletes like just closing their eyes, and they would talk about after they had their gold medal of them walking through.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I could see the translation though from going from skiing to rowing for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like you have to keep it process oriented. As soon as people get um like too hung up on the outcome, that's when stuff usually goes wrong.
Interesting. I could
Yeah.
okay. So you fixate on the
Yeah.
place or the medal versus finishing strong type situation.
Yeah, like there were times where I was like, "Oh my God, are we gonna medal? Are we gonna not?" And it's like I actually can't control that. What I can control is like how I'm gonna race my race, and how
Mm,
I'm gonna be so in tune with the person in front of me, and what I'm gonna put forward for the person behind me. So it actually is an awesome way to calm your nerves, because you're like,
yeah.
actually, I don't have control over this. I just have control over me and what I can add to this boat. So Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, when people are too like hung up on their medal, they lose sight of what they actually have to execute and how they have to execute it.
Hmm. The reason I asked about that is I think it's also tangible for other sports too.
A
Like
hundred
when you're
percent.
like
Yeah.
a lot of listeners that we have on this podcast are mainly very much athletes, but also a lot of runners.
Yeah.
100-mile, 100K marathons. I have a
That's
100K.
like a whole other level of crazy. I can't even go there. I enjoy running probably like 10, I've ran 15K. I think that's as far as I
Okay.
ran.
There,
I'm like,
that's still
I'm fit enough to do it. I don't have a runner's body, I will say. I like it a lot, but damn, that's a whole other level of rowing. I have immense respect for people who do that. It's intense, man.
it makes you feel better. I'm 6'2" and I run. I do not have a runner's body. I look like a
Are
fucking
you six
giraffe.
two?
I'm 6'2", yeah.
Hell yeah, I love that for you.
Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's a good time. It
Yeah.
is. It's expensive, but it's a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's like
It's
most
give and
things that
take.
are worth it. Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Oh man, but that was the reason why I was asking about visualization. I feel like it also can
Yeah.
be helpful to people on race day.
Man, it's helpful for anything in life, like any
Yes.
goal you have. Like, I mean, people call it like daydreaming. That's essentially visualization to a certain degree
Mm.
too. Like, yeah, I dreamt of being on the podium and listening to my anthem, and then I got to
Aw.
live it, and I was like, yeah, I was kind of visualizing that moment too. And then you kind of pick this moment what you really want, you visualize it, and then you work backwards. You're like, okay, well, to get there, what do I need to do? And then it's
Right.
like you work back to, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do tomorrow? How consistent do I have to be? And it's like the hardest thing about being an athlete is not like you're way, it's not like I'm way more talented than any of my teammates or any of the rest of the world, to be honest. There's a lot of people who are far more talented than I am. But it's like I can work really hard day in, day out because I have that mental strength,
Mm-hmm.
because I have that like grit, of just like taking it one stroke at a time and repeating it. And it's exhausting. And that's probably one of the more exhausting parts about training. It's not necessarily what your body's doing, although that's exhausting in its own right, but doing it well and doing it precisely and the best you can all the time, and knowing that you're not going to be great all the time, but doing your best in that day, and that adds up and adds up and adds up, and then you see your gains, and then you get better, and you're like, whoa, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I got you. Have you read the book Mindset?
I haven't.
I feel like you would like it. It's
Okay,
very
cool.
much about like it's a little dry. I'll give
Yeah,
you like it's an audio. Like if you can do audio and like you're like on a walk,
yeah.
plug that in. But she
Okay,
talks
cool.
about like fixed, which is like the very boxed in mindset versus
Yeah,
growth, which very
yeah,
much reminds you of you. Just like, okay, alpine skiing didn't work. Next, this doesn't
yeah,
work. Like you're going to find a way. Either you're gonna bulldoze, or you're gonna get in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Um, just throwing that out. But
Oh, yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I'll
yeah,
have
no
to check it
problem.
out.
It's definitely, I don't know how traffic is over there in good old Canada, but in LA you want to have a good
Yeah.
audiobook to get through the
I've
traffic.
seen videos of LA traffic, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
whoo, I don't know how you guys do it. I'm lucky. I live in a city that's,
Oh man.
yeah, we got it good over here, and it's easy to get out of the city and get out of Dodge. So yeah, that's something else. But I love
Yeah.
listening to podcasts when I'm going on hot girl walks and stuff. So
Oh
I'm gonna
yeah.
have to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, going back to the Tokyo 2021 Olympics, you went
Yeah,
through some pretty gnarly shit before the actual Olympics
yeah,
happened. Another kind of speed bump that you had to go through. Would you
yeah,
mind, you got into like a little bit of a bike accident crash.
yeah,
Would you mind talking through a little bit about your mentality of like, just, all right, we're fucking going for it still. Like, would you mind
yeah,
walking through that a little bit?
yeah. So we were training up island, so on Vancouver Island, about 3 hours north of our base, in Victoria, and it was kind of supposed to be like a pre-camp for the Olympics. So
Mm,
enjoy each other. You're a bit more secluded, um, and you're surrounded by mountains. It's really quiet. We got to row in this beautiful lake, and we had a session that morning, and I think it was our first row, and it was like a 20K row, and it was beautiful. We were looking around, the water was calm, like it was awesome. And I was like, man, this place really reminds me of home with the mountains and everything. It felt like really good. And Honestly, I was in a really good headspace. Like I had lots of fun that spring. I was really enjoying rowing. The weather was beautiful. Like everything was lining up. And that afternoon we went on a bike ride, or we had a cross train. You could hike, run, do spin, or take your bike out. And a bunch of us had brought our road bikes. So I was like, naturally, I'm going to go biking, and had cycled throughout that year, at least twice a week, like with teammates, always out on my bike. Everything was fine. And then we were out on a bike ride. I had one hand off the handlebar. I must have hit a rock or something. I'm not totally sure. I might have done something. I don't really remember, to be honest. Like, I'm not totally sure how it happened, but my handlebars just went completely sideways and I just went flying into the air. I ended up taking two of my teammates down with me who were both in the eight as well. And I just like sat up, saw one of my teammates lying there. The other one was already up. She's like our little pit bull, we used to call her. Like, she's just like, she sat behind me in the boat. She's just like so tough. And then I just like knew something was wrong with my shoulder. And then I just saw red. And so many of my teammates who were on, there's like 10 of us, were running towards me and like literally ripping shirts off their back and putting it on my forehead. And I was like, my shoulder, is something wrong with my shoulder. They're like, yeah, but right now, like, your forehead is open and
Oh,
we need to
geez.
make sure you're okay. And I was like, okay. And, you know, panic. And it was just on the highway there. It's a single lane highway. And luckily my coach, two of my coaches, the men's coach and the women's coach, were following us in the truck just in case somebody had a flat or whatever.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank God, because there was no service. And
Oh, geez.
yeah, and to my teammates, like, I'll never forget this. They put me in the truck and they basically picked me up. My knee was completely open, my hip was completely open, and I was just like crying. And I was like, it's all my fault. I felt so guilty for taking down two of my teammates. And then I was like, oh my God, like my dream of becoming an Olympian just like flashed before my eyes. And I was like, I just want to be an Olympian so bad. Like, I just kept saying, like, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to go to the Olympics. And Will Crothers, who's my teammate and good friend, he's an Olympic silver medalist from 2012 in the eight, was there. And he just like pulled me up and said, Kasia, look at me. You're fucking going. And I was like, okay. And I went into the back of the truck, and my two teammates who I took down came with me, and our coach drove us to the hospital, which was like 45 minutes away. And we walked in, and luckily one of them was like, you know, had road rash and pretty bruised, but fine. And the other one had a minor concussion, so that took her out for like a few days. But I was in pretty rough shape.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get like 57 stitches, 32 in my forehead. Like, this was completely
Jesus.
open. Um, and then, you know, I found out my collarbone was broken, and I just started bawling. And I was actually on the phone with my mother-in-law because she's a nurse when the nurse came in and told me. And I just like bawled and bawled for about 10 minutes. And then I like remember looking at the nurse and the emergency doc, and I was like, you guys are going to think I'm fucking crazy, but I'm not quitting. And I remember the emergency doc was like, you're not crazy, and I can't wait to see you at the start line. And I was just like,
Oh,
I was like, you know, and like doctors can be so dry, and
yeah.
so that was like pretty amazing. And man,
Oh,
it's
I'm
like
gonna
I haven't
chirp a little
talked about
bit.
this in so long.
Yeah.
It's getting me emotional too. Um, but yeah, it was like so amazing to have people like there, because they were like, "Oh, you're an athlete," and I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, they're like, a cyclist, and I was like, "No, a rower." Like, oh, like what level? I was like, well, I'm supposed to be going to the Olympics in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they were amazing, and my close friends and family were amazing. My husband, who's my boyfriend at the time, flew out to help take care of me, and 3 days later I got surgery. And yeah, they put my collarbone back together. And it's so funny now because my husband is he's a medical sales rep, and he works with a surgeon that did my collarbone, so kind of a small
Nice.
world. And yeah, he put my collarbone together, and I just recovered and started training. And my teammates flew out 2.5 weeks after my surgery, and I had to stay home and prove that I could make it back in the boat. And I was cycling almost every day because I couldn't row yet. My knee was completely open, so I was kept like ripping it open. There was almost like no skin on my knee, so like the
Jesus.
stitches were barely doing anything. There's some dark, really, really dark days. I was like, yeah, just alone in the lab with my strength and conditioning coach, and just just cycling away, doing whatever I
Yeah.
could. After my teammates flew out, I did an erg, so on the rowing machine, and they like FaceTimed everybody back in Japan. So my team doctor, the managers, the high performance director, they had three cameras like from each angle, one on either side, one behind, to check my technique and everything. And I did an erg, and I was done, and they were like, "Yeah, we'd like to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh God, what are they gonna say?" They're like,
Right.
"Yeah, everything looks good. You come over." But like they were acting super weird, and I was like, "I don't know what's going on here." So I flew over, landed, and my
To
team doc,
Japan?
yeah,
Okay.
alone, and I would have 4 days in the boat. These would be my first 4 days back to rowing, and on the fourth day, I would have a seat race with our spare. So basically, you race in the boat, the other person races in the boat, and whoever's the best would go to the Olympics, and
Oh
whoever
my
didn't was
God.
literally sent home the next day. And this was the day before the before we were going into the village. So very, very stressful. And I remember landing and my team doctor being like, "Can I talk to you?" Like all over again. I was like, "Oh God, no!"
Oh
But
God.
and he sat me down and he was like, "I am just so freaking proud of you."
Oh, okay, good.
And I was like, just shocked because I didn't know what he was gonna say. He's like, "I know we were really quiet on that FaceTime call, but we were also shocked at like how well you were rowing." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Because I thought you guys were gonna tell me I couldn't come." Like it was one of those moments. And then yeah, I did my seat race. I won my seat race. Went into the village the next day and was training back in the boat like to win a gold medal again. And to be honest, after coming back from that injury, like racing at the Olympics kind of felt like cheese. Like it felt easy because it wasn't easy, but it was what I had trained for. Like that
Right.
I knew how to do. And I talked to one physio from home, and he's like, "Your body's going to be like surging with all these hormones and all this adrenaline because you're coming back from this injury and you're still like recuperating and everything. Take advantage of it. You're going to feel amazing." And I did.
Yeah.
And then we won gold. So it was kind of a crazy story.
I mean, and you throw in the fact that like COVID was happening, were the
Yeah.
Olympics going on? Like, God forbid, I remember watching and they would
Yeah.
randomly test people or athletes who had COVID and they would be sent home. Like, no
Yeah.
questions
So,
asked.
yeah. So we were spitting in tubes every morning. And if you tested positive, they would do a second test. And if you tested positive again, then you were quarantined for 2 weeks in Japan at like one of their COVID hospitals or whatever. So, yeah, it was not easy. And actually, on the flight over, if you were within 6 rows of somebody who was diagnosed or tested positive for COVID, you had to be quarantined for 2 weeks on upon arrival. And I was actually 2 rows away from being quarantined for 2 weeks. So
Jesus.
someone was looking out for me. Not
Yeah.
sure who, but somebody was. And yeah, it just kind of all lined up perfectly. I think I just honestly I wanted it so bad. Like I can't even describe how bad I wanted it. I would have done anything to
hmm
get back in that boat as long as I wasn't causing permanent damage to my body. Like, yeah, yeah,
Can, because I've torn things in my shoulder and
yeah,
that shit is painful.
yeah,
So you had surgery 2.5 weeks before you were doing your erg test?
yeah. I it's funny. Like my collarbone hurt really bad for the first 3 days after surgery, which I knew was going to happen. I had
Uh-huh.
gotten ACL surgery and broken my tibia,
Okay.
and I like I've had like 3 surgeries on my left knee, and so I knew that was going to happen. I was prepared for it. And then after that, it really wasn't that painful. Honestly, my knee
Okay.
was more painful than my collarbone because there was no skin on it. And like walking, you use your knee, you like,
Right.
tear it open all the time. My collarbone was like, the muscle was atrophied and it just took rehab, but it wasn't like painful.
Okay.
I mean, the thing too is like I kind of got lucky with a broken bone. Um, it was on my inside shoulder, so it wasn't the like hand I use the most. I use it a bit less than my left because I
Mm-hmm.
row out to port, so you kind of have this asymmetrical stroke. Um, when you tear stuff with ligaments, it takes months of rehab, whereas a broken bone,
Yeah.
like you have a chance of healing a little bit faster. So I know it was really rough. It was a really tight timeline. I know it was out of the norm, but I got lucky that it wasn't worse, and so I had a chance, and I knew
Yeah.
that the whole time that there was a chance, and that was enough for me to cling on to.
I cannot imagine all that sort of mental navigation.
Yeah,
Jeez, woman.
lots of
I
tears.
bet. I mean,
Yeah,
I was getting a little teary when you were talking about it. Good Lord.
yeah, yeah,
Gosh. Okay. So, from that perspective, you guys just won gold.
yeah,
Now, rather than 4 years, you have 3 years to get ready for Paris.
yeah,
And so this time you guys medaled for silver, which is
yeah,
still like an amazing. You said you guys needed to medal. You medaled.
yeah. We medaled. Honestly, I think we won the medal that was winnable. Romania had been so dominant all quad that, like, I
Okay.
hoped we were strong enough to beat them. We hadn't
Uh-huh.
raced them in this lineup with these people in our boat before the Olympics, so there was still hope for me that we were good enough to win. Um, but I mean, truly, like they were so dominant all quad, like people were really fighting for silver, and there's probably like five boats that could have got a silver
Come
medal,
silver.
you
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
So I think it just, I'm extremely proud of the silver medal. I was like, it meant almost as much as the gold, just something different. Like, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
like, I didn't get the same high as winning gold. And I think the gold was a complete shock where to most people, whereas the silver, people thought we had a shot at winning again. So you kind of do it once and it's funny how people are like, yeah, go do it again. And you're like, that's
Yeah.
actually really fucking
Fucking
hard what we
hard.
just did. Yeah. But no, I was extremely proud of that medal. It's a beautiful medal. The experiences we got to live with that medal were just made everything worth it this quad. Like I'm so glad I
Yeah.
kept going. Like I said, I didn't think I would, and I'm so glad I did because getting a real Olympic experience and going to ceremonies, which I didn't do in Tokyo. So
Oh.
going to the closing ceremonies and just like having people cheer you on for that podium and your friends and family, like man, that was just an emotional wreck because
Yeah.
it's just like relief and pride all in one.
Mm-hmm. I know it's talked about a lot, and I have a couple of just, Olympian questions because you see
Yeah,
all
for
this
sure.
shit in the news.
Yeah.
Did you sleep on the cardboard beds?
Yes, in Tokyo, no, in Paris.
Hmm.
So in Paris, we stayed at a remote village, which was a really actually beautiful hotel because we were outside of the city. And honestly, I think that was better because it felt more like a World Championships than an Olympics. So it kind of felt a little bit more normal. And you could kind
Mm.
of get into your race prep like you normally would. And then we just basically stayed in an Airbnb after that for the rest of the time while we explored the
Okay.
city for the second half of the Olympics. In Tokyo, we stayed in the village. It was pretty much mandatory for everyone. And
Yeah.
yeah, the cardboard beds, they really went viral, both Olympics. But they weren't like bad. I mean,
That to me is what
yeah,
it
I think it
seems
got blown
like.
a bit out of proportion. They weren't great. Like the mattress in Tokyo wasn't great on it. At the same time, like I'm gonna say what most athletes probably don't want to hear is like we know this stuff. We
Yeah.
travel all the time. Like
Yeah.
we bring mattress toppers to other races because we know this stuff happens. Like you don't know
Yeah.
what you're getting in hotels. Like I travel with my own pillow. I always know I can order a mattress topper off Amazon if I need it. Like
Yeah.
so we brought mattress toppers in Tokyo. We were ready and like that's It's kind of part of it is you got to be ready for that stuff. It's not just the stuff that's in the spotlight that you have to be ready for. It's stuff out of the spotlight that you have to do better than everybody else. And like, you got to be comfortable. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just, yeah, I don't know. That's
It's
just my take on it.
no, I think that's totally right. Like as an athlete, it's like, okay, these are the cards I'm dealt with. I'm not here for the beds. I'm
Yeah,
here for the medal. I'm here for the race. I think why it's gotten so much attention is because you have like, these are fucking Olympians.
yeah,
Like it's of a high caliber elite athlete, and the contradiction of them sleeping on a cardboard bed.
yeah,
I think that's the
totally. And you know what? That's because people generally watch Olympic sports only during the Olympics. But like I said, it's not a glamorous lifestyle most of the time. And
no.
so people are like, oh, you're like an Olympic medalist. Like, you must be doing great. I'm like, actually, no. Like, it's still really hard to get support.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have many sponsors. I'm in a niche sport. Like, we don't, yeah, we don't, it is like hilarious that you have the best athletes in the world sleeping on cardboard beds, but like, the village is not that glamorous, and neither is our daily life for most athletes. There's some that do
Yeah.
very well, but those are like the one percenters. Most athletes are like scraping by. Even a
Mm-hmm.
lot of medalists are just scraping by, depending on your sport. Like, unless you're
Yeah.
like a track athlete or Simone Biles, you know, like
I think there was also an interview with Simone and her teammate. She didn't say anything, but her teammate was like, "Oh, the food, it's not like, dude, it's food. Like people
yeah,
don't really care that it's like a 5 star. It's food, and that's
it's food.
enough."
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like amazing. Like we did visit the village. Was it like
Yeah.
amazing? No, like the food in Tokyo was wicked, I thought. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
I thought the Tokyo food was awesome. Most of my teammates agreed, but like I'm sorry, but you have
Yeah, but
everything you need. Like
yeah,
you got your proteins and you got a variety of it. Like you can make it work. Like yeah, you probably
yeah.
get sick of it after a couple weeks for sure. But man, you have some athletes that are coming from underdeveloped parts of the world competing at the Olympics. And honestly, they're fighting tooth and nail just to get to the Olympics because they can get healthcare, because
Mm-hmm.
they can see a dentist. Like we got it pretty good. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That it's very interesting to me, the contradiction between like you have these elite, not even elite, Olympian athletes
yeah.
and the bare minimum. So do you think, like, I noticed there's quite a shift in women's sports?
Yeah.
There's a huge uptick in viewability, especially here in the United States, like with women's
Yes.
basketball, that's been
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Alona Mar with rugby. Have
Yeah.
you noticed that uptick as well in Canada too? Or is it
I think it's starting. I mean, it was
okay?
so cool seeing Alona just blow up. I actually met her at a training camp in Chula Vista near San Diego
Okay.
last year, and I was already a fan, and like just think she's so cool, and like just love her, like just love what she stands for. And just seeing her blow up this Olympics was really really cool. I think there's a couple leagues that are now coming to Canada. There's a soccer league that's going to be starting in Canada, which is so exciting. There was a women's hockey league that started last year, I believe,
Okay.
and it like blew up. Like the women's hockey games, like they were selling out arenas, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, and just seeing that has been so cool. And just actually excites me for the opportunity to potentially work in women's sports at some point and
Yeah.
seeing that grow. I think there's a lot more work to do, but yeah, the ball's rolling, and definitely like everything that happens in the States has this ripple effect on the rest of the world. So when women's sports are blowing up in the States, it's a great thing for us because it
Okay.
just has
Yeah.
that ripple effect, and we need that. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
super exciting.
Yeah, it's been as some because I played basketball. That's the 6'2" thing. It's been really
Yeah,
cool to watch through like Caitlin Clark and
yeah,
her kind of dominating women's basketball, and they're
yeah,
also being, they can start being paid in college. That means they're being
yeah,
paid. They can be in
yeah,
ads, and it's an equal opportunity for women and men. And then that trickled to women's basketball getting more attention because she's been recruited. And then what other
yeah,
sports are there? Alona Mar,
absolutely.
not giving a fuck about body standards. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen her Sports Illustrated.
Oh
Just
yeah. We're so pumped, and no, it's so cool. Like, I've never played basketball, and yet the fact that I know like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all these like rookies
yeah.
that are coming up, and how much they're in the media and how many accounts I have to follow to see what they're up to, and all these
Mm-hmm.
female hockey players in Canada. I mean, hockey in Canada is like
Huge.
everything, right?
Yeah.
And but it's trickling, and even at the Olympics, like the women of Team Canada have really shown up at the last two summer games, and they've won a lot of medals for our country, and so they're getting more exposure, and that's exciting. I wish there was more in Canada. Like it's still
Hmm.
it's still not there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's super exciting, and I'm just excited to see the leagues that grow out of this as well.
Yeah. Do you have, looking back thus far, and how are you on time? Are you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking back where you are now over the last, 2019, do you have a moment in your rowing career that's like stuck out to the sense of like, this is the proudest moment that I've gotten thus far?
I think there were two moments, maybe three. There was one moment the first year I was on the team where um, my teammate and I were in a pair together for national championships, and you're always in a small boat for those. So we were in a pair and we finished fourth, and I don't think we were expected to do that well. And we beat a lot of women who were in the silver medal world championship boat from the year prior. And I was new to the team, and I was like, yeah, I always knew I could do this, but like that was a moment where I was like, now I'm starting to show it, and people are going to believe me.
Mm-hmm.
And people did after that. I think they started to take me really seriously after that. And like my body of work started showing itself as well.
Yeah.
But I was extremely proud of that race. And like, that race got no coverage. It didn't really matter in the big scheme of things. But it was like, yeah, I belong. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
here. And then obviously, like, after winning gold, that was just the surreal moment of like, holy crap. Like, it was like, like it was like a movie. All those flashbacks you get leading to one moment. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like that, and it was extremely, extremely special. And I was just so proud to sing my national anthem in the middle of the podium. That was really, really special. And then like the feeling after Paris was like, I know I'm not going to do another Olympics. I don't know how much
Okay.
longer I'll continue rowing. But I knew that was going to be my last Olympic Games, and to just finish it off like with a silver medal is such a privilege. Like so
Mm-hmm.
many athletes don't get say on how they finish off their career, or towards the end of the career, what it looks like. And the fact that I got to go out on a high is something that I don't take for granted. And um, I was just extremely, extremely proud of my career because it was more than I could have dreamed of. Like I dreamt of that gold so much from since I can remember, but like I never dreamt of being a two-time medalist until I started training for Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like the bonus dream.
Yeah, and just you got the gold from Tokyo, but you got the
Yeah,
experience, the
exactly.
ceremony, the closing, the
Yeah,
opening, the catwalk opportunity,
yeah,
all that in Paris.
yeah. It was so cool. And
Yeah.
just like that hug with your family was another thing
Oh
I
yeah.
dreamed of. Like you see on TV athletes, they win, and who do they run to? It's like their family, their
Family.
significant other. And I dreamt of that moment, and I didn't get it in Tokyo, and I got to get it in Paris, and that was extremely special.
Mm-hmm. So you've mentioned, actually, I do have a quick question.
Yeah,
So I know a lot of athletic teams, you guys get a crap ton of gear, and
yeah,
the gear
yeah,
provided for Canada is Lululemon.
yeah. That was
Are
sick.
you living in? I see you're wearing it now. Are you still
I'm
living
wearing
in
it
your
now.
kit? Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
I was gonna say no, and then I thought of what I wore earlier today, and I was like, yeah, I guess I am. Um, yeah, it's like there's so much that I'm like, it's insane. Like I don't know how much of it I'll wear again. But it's cool. I have three nieces on my husband's side, and I've known them all since they were born, so I get to like share my gear with them, which is really fun. But I'm not gonna lie, the gear was freaking sick. I was
Yeah,
pumped. Like,
you guys have
and
good gear.
like all the other athletes that were coming up to us and being like, "You guys have the best kit," and we're like, "Really? Sick!" Like,
Oh yeah, you guys did.
and it was like bold and kind of out there, and there's definitely some memes out there about our kit, like our podium kit. I don't know if you saw, but
Oh yeah, I did see this one.
there's like a bacon reference too, which like, you know what? Bacon's
Sure.
really Canadian, so why not? And no, but I loved it. You could like zip off the like arms and the legs. That was such a
Oh,
cool outfit. So
you guys had good gear.
we had good gear. And
You're
like, you know what? I worked
yeah.
at Lulu for 5 years, so it was kind of like full circle moment. So it was kind of funny.
That is full circle. We're
Yeah.
Ralph Lauren.
Okay, but yours was, there were some sick fits. I thought like some of them looked really good. The closing ceremony kit was really cool, but
Okay,
like
so you like that.
I thought it looked great. The athlete looked, they looked super hot. They looked like they were dying, but
Oh,
it looked
like temperature wise. Okay, yeah.
temperature right. Yeah, it looked way too hot for the temperature of a summer games, but I thought they looked cool.
Yeah, they just screamed. I mean, we're America, so
Yeah,
American,
that's what
true. But
that's
it
what
was
we
just like
expect, right?
it was Talladega Nights race car,
Yeah,
And I guess
I,
at the
you
end of the
know,
day,
I like
yeah,
that movie, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
it's yeah. I don't know. It was cool to see all of these amazing different body types where
Yeah,
something that part was cool and we had like skims involved, and not to make the Olympics
yeah.
about clothes, but I think that it is cool to see different like
It's
clothing brands from different
yeah,
countries
it's
come
I'm
together.
sorry, but it's a part of it. Like,
It is.
am I gonna lie and say like the fact that Lulu was doing her kit this quad didn't motivate me? Like, no, it did. Like, it was a small part of it why I wanted to keep going. I was like, I really want the kit. Like, that's gonna be so sick. And like, yeah, it is a part of it because you know what? The medal's not guaranteed, but the kit is, and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
a bit of a like a you made it kind of moment. And you get to try on
Mm-hmm.
all your stuff, and it's fun, and you make like reels and TikToks, and you're just joking around with your teammates. Like, it's fun. It's a
Yeah, it
cool
is.
part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it has the Olympics. It has like it's very apparent that you are
an
of
Olympian.
elite. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
not
You got
everybody
all.
gets it. So
No,
yeah, it is cool. It is cool.
I like that. Okay, so you keep flashing your bling. You've got two blings going on in your hands. For those who aren't
Yeah, I
watching,
guess so.
give me to
Yeah.
me. So you got your
So
Olympic rings and
yeah, so this one Rowing Canada gives us actually.
oh, okay,
So I got this after Tokyo, and then I just got married. So I
yeah, you
got
did.
the rings on, which you know when I'm training I never get to wear rings because our hands are just calloused and it would cause issues. So I think that's why I'm wearing them all the time right now. I'm
As you
taking a
should.
little break from training right now, so I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I get to wear all my rings.
yeah. So you just got a silver in
Yeah,
Paris. You came home, got married.
yeah,
Are you, and you mentioned you're not doing the Olympics, like that was your last one. Are
yeah.
you just relishing in the life of Kasia right now? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Um, I'm
Not that
trying
you
to
have to
rec-
do
I
anything. I think
know,
people
I
ask
know.
that question. Not that I'm
Yeah,
pressuring you to do something, but I'm
no.
curious. Like, what do
Thanks
you,
for acknowledging that also. But
no problem.
no, I'm trying to recover still, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's been really busy and I think I need a moment to kind of sit back and think about like what we accomplished and I'm getting there. I was kind of looking forward to getting back in a routine this week. That's the A-type athlete thing coming out, but my body decided that I was going to be chilling a lot more this week than I wanted to, and that's fine. I think just taking a moment to slow down and enjoy
Yeah.
being with my partner and my parents living in Canmore, which is an hour away from Calgary, right in the mountains. So I get to go to the mountains and just be normal, I guess, for a
Just
bit.
be, yeah.
Yeah, and that feels really good. I got some fun like plans for the fall and still want to get back into training fairly soon so I don't lose too much fitness. But yeah, I just want to enjoy life and the things that I haven't been able to do over the last almost 7 years, like, you know, making plans with friends that
Yeah.
I don't normally get to see, and so that's been really, really special.
That's amazing. Because I also want to make sure I clarified too that I feel like that's so a question that's asked Olympians. Like after you guys get your gold
Yeah,
medal, then now what? I'm like, dude, nothing. They get to
yeah.
like you get to chill, you get to live, you get to do your thing. So I wanted to make sure I clarified. I don't think you have to
Yeah.
be doing
No,
something.
totally. It's just funny. It's like, it was particularly a question in interviews after Tokyo. They were like, "Oh, so Paris?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm
Bro,
sorry. The Olympics aren't even over. And was this medal not good enough for you? That's my bad. I don't know what else I could have done, but no, but it's like, guys, like, you really, like, I know you have to ask that question, but like,
good lord, man.
this is why it's a fleeting moment. It's not
Yeah.
celebrated enough because it goes by so fast. And maybe I knew that this time that I really have to like soak it in as much as possible. And you know, we did our fair share of partying in Paris, and
As you should.
as we should. And by the end of the week, I was like, I think I'm ready to go home now. I haven't slept in a week. So yeah, no, I'm just enjoying it and sharing it with the people I haven't got to share it with them in a long time.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I warned you before we recorded I had some technical questions.
Yeah.
Because these come from my near and dear husband. We've watched the movie The Boy in the Boat.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
sparked a lot of because rowing, it's not, I don't think any sport is easy, but rowing
Yeah.
is so technical. I'm not
It's
going to
very
pretend that I know.
technical. Yeah, it is. It's very, very simple, but it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got some questions for you about
Yeah,
that. And then we'll jump into rapid fire because I do want to be mindful of your time.
Yeah, no
Okay.
worries.
So where should I start as I stroke my chin like I have? Okay. So how does rowing compare to other endurance sports in your opinion? Did you run? We already actually screw that. We already answered that one. Talk to me about, okay. Oh, this is a good one.
Okay,
Swing.
I actually want to go back to the other one.
Okay, you do
I
want the
like
other one?
that question. Yeah, because
Okay.
a lot of people are like, so there's a big aerobic component to rowing for sure,
Okay.
but there's also a big power component to it, especially in an 8. And
An 8-person boat?
yeah,
Okay.
and you got to be strong. Like, you got to be strong to move an 8. It's a big boat. There's lots of mass in it. You have a coxswain who's steering the boat and has a mic, and you got to be strong. And my aerobic training was not my favorite. I really struggled with that. So those long aerobic sessions are not my jam. It's the sparky anaerobic stuff I love.
Okay.
And rowing's kind of like a 2-kilometer race. It's kind of like the point where aerobic meets anaerobic. And that's why it's so freaking hard is it's like a 6-minute sprint. Yeah. So it's really like, it's not like cross country skiing or running where it's like really, really aerobic. Generally for most distances. Yeah, you can be really strong and like big and broad, and you can still be good at rowing, you know?
Yeah,
So,
I got you.
yeah.
I don't know what that face was, but I got you. Okay, so what are your thoughts about swing? So the swing of the actual rowing, and then in sync with other rowers, is there, like, it's got to be in unison.
Yeah.
How difficult is that to find?
It's hard. The American 8 in Tokyo had extremely strong women, and one of them is the world record holder on the erg for a 2-kilometer on the rowing machine. And they finished 4th, and it, like, we dethroned them. They had won gold in that event since like 2004, I think. And you gotta work together and you gotta be in unison. You can have 8 of the strongest women in the world, and if you guys aren't picking up the boat together and moving like well, the boat's not gonna go as well as you want it to. So the element of swing can mean a different thing to each boat. Most calls mean slightly different things. I would assume like swing kind of means like the rocking over and the hinging from the hips and moving that way. And there's some really, really fast boats that don't row the best technically, but they're doing the same thing. And so they can move the boat really, really well.
Okay.
So I'd say that's like the biggest thing in rowing is like, for sure you have to be fit and strong. There's no way getting around that. But I'm guaranteeing most women, the start line of an Olympic final are really, really fit and strong.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, unless you're like doping, there's like, it's a pretty even playing field. No, truly, because we're all doing the same thing. And sports science has gotten so far, it's really hard to find an edge over your competition.
True.
Like physiologically, like there's lots of research out there. Times have changed. So, you know, if everybody's clean out there, then yeah, it's going to be more about the technique and the mental side of it, way more. So
you mentioned it's 6 minutes approximately, give or take.
Yeah.
And that's full-fledged focus. Like you guys have to be in unison for those 6 minutes. And that's a level of like, I'm blanking on the word, but you can, like, there is no distractions. You are focused on each movement, on your teammate's movement, the person calling out.
Yeah.
Was it hard, like that transition? Because I feel like it's very easy to be distracted, or no?
Yeah, you can get distracted. Um, I think again that comes back to like visualization and prep. Like,
Mm,
and honestly, it's how you use your nerves. I just picked a point on my teammate's back, like, and I just stared at it
okay.
the whole time. And I was like, I'm not taking my eyes off. And whatever Kit or coxswain called, I would do. And that's just it. So yes, you can get distracted. And it's funny because 6 minutes can be really long, but it can also go by really, really fast.
Okay.
And there were moments when it went by really fast, and there were moments where I was like, "Oh my God, I need to hold on for dear life here because I'm dying."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just practice. It's
Yeah,
there's nothing like sexy about it. It's just practice. Yeah,
I got you. Okay. And then my last technical question is you mentioned that is it coxswain?
yeah,
What are the things that she's yelling to you? Because I mean, we can
yeah,
see it when we're watching. Like, dude,
yeah,
what is she
yeah,
yelling at you guys?
yeah. So the 8 is a very loud race because you have 6 coxswains with a full-on mic, and they have adrenaline going through them, and their heart rates are elevated, and so they're getting pretty intense as well. Most people think they're just going like row, row, and setting the rhythm, but that's not true. We do that ourselves. We set the rhythm within the boat. A lot of what she's doing is either calling her race plans, so we do it all together. So like, and where we are in a race, really important. So like,
Mm,
off a start, she'll call like 3 long, 2 shorter, lengthen. On this stroke, we're gonna lengthen out our strokes. So we go really, really high rate, row, 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 like really fast, really high stroke rate, and then we kind of slow it down for the middle, and then we bring it
mm,
back up for the finish. So it's kind of keeping us in check about we're doing that together, letting us know where we are in the race, like what distance marker, because
mm.
we're not looking out of the boat. You don't know. You have an idea, but you don't know. And letting us know where we are in the race. So whether we're first, second, wherever we are, who's doing what. Like we can't see 6 lanes across. That's like 100 meters away, like
Yeah.
150 meters. Like we can't see that, nor should we be looking there. So she, like GB, who finished third and narrowly finished third, they were contending for silver as well. Like both of us were kind of fighting for that silver. Um, we only knew how close we were to them because she was telling us. And so
Oh, okay.
that final push was like, we're going to fight for this silver with everything we have because GB is making a move and they're coming for us. So yeah, it was, they have a really cool job, and then they're steering us down the course, and keeping us straight can gain you a lot of time. So
Yeah.
yeah, or those precious hundredths of a second that can make all the
Hey,
difference. So yeah,
no kidding. Okay. Wow, I never knew all of that. I mean, it
yeah,
makes sense if you're focusing on the person in front of you, you're not really looking
yeah,
around.
yeah. So in smaller boats, you have like the bow person usually calls the race, so they'll look out. In an 8, it's too big of a boat, so you have
Yeah.
somebody do that for you. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for answering those.
Yeah.
Okay, last couple of questions, and I'll let you go on your lovely way, your
Yeah.
lovely
No.
married way.
Yeah.
So these are rapid fire questions. They're just
Yeah.
kind of fun
Sure.
tidbit questions. So, what is your go-to post-workout snack / meal?
Um, Probably like middle of the day, I'd say pasta.
Oh,
Like, spaghetti with meat sauce. Yeah. It's the
because you
Italian
guys.
in me.
Oh, that's fair. Were you guys
Yeah.
training 2 times a day, like morning
We
and
were
then
training like
afternoon?
2 to 3 times a day. So in the morning,
Okay.
like bacon, eggs, veggies, toast. That sounds pretty awesome. Or like a breakfast burrito would be wicked.
Uh-huh.
And then evenings, afternoons, like love pasta. So that would be like
Okay.
an awesome recover meal. Yeah.
Nice. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. What is one thing that you want listeners to know about you? Like one takeaway you want them to like seal the deal?
Um, then I started rowing at the age of 23. I know I mentioned that earlier, but
Yeah.
dreams can come true in many different ways. And as athletes, I think when you're young, you think it's over. And for me, it was just a different path. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm 33 now. I didn't go to my first Olympics till I was 30. So yeah,
Whoa. I guess I didn't put the timetable together. Yeah.
yeah,
That's fucking crazy in
yeah,
the best way.
yeah, in a good way,
Damn,
in a
woman.
really
That's
good way.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then what are 3 things that you're grateful for?
Um, Colton, my husband, who
Aw.
flew out with me to be with me after my accident, and and uh, and really like was such a big part of my support system. My friends and family would be the second thing, and then the third would just be like the opportunity I had to be an athlete. Like so many people don't get that opportunity, and it's really shitty at times, and it's tough, and I'm not gonna lie about that, and it can really wear you down, but I got a chance at my dream and I ran with it, and I'm just so grateful for that.
Perfect. That's the podcast.
Sweet.
You crushed it.